Hey there, Björkvin Benediktsson from Audio Issues here, and author of Step by Step Mixing: How to Create Great Mixes Using Only 5 Plugins. Today I'm going to discuss a little bit about what we did this Monday during our mix streams. But before we get into bass mixing, vocal effects, and drum replacement, you can please like and subscribe. And if you want my mix cheat sheet that helps you make all of your mixes sound the same across all different speaker systems, get my mix translation cheat sheet at mixfinisher.com. If you watched the last video, you know that we had finished the last mix stream with having kind of a rough mix that I was more or less happy with the rough mix, but it didn't sound as good as I wanted it to be. I felt like the drums were disjointed and weren't really part of the mix, especially the snare just wasn't fitting in and felt distant and felt just like it didn't belong with with the rest of the drum kit. And then I spent some time mixing it, so I'm gonna show you exactly what I think are some powerful points that you can take away from it. But let's take a listen to the before and after. So not terrible, but not up to my standards. So I spent a little more time on it, and here was the first mix that I was happy with, and then we did some minor mix revisions and tweaks after that. All right, so that's how that ended up, and the reason I managed to make the drums better was simple. I just used drum replacement. I just replaced the snares. So as you can hear here, this is the original snare. I used Drumagog for drum replacement, and I just found a snare that fits in with what I was doing, and so this is the snare without the drum replacement. And then this is the drum. This is the drum kit with the drum replacement, and there's a little bit. I think it's blended to. No, it's 100% blended in. So I'm just using the sample. And then in the context of the mix, it's. And you may remember from last week that there was a snare up and snare down, or snare top and bottom, and I just skipped using the snare bottom. There were some phase issues, some polarity issues with it, and I just cut that. I just took that out of the equation, and also the room mic, because the room mic had so much bleed. I decided to just make that drum space myself. Didn't need the rooms for that. So that's on the drums. One thing that I thought was really fun was the bass. I really tried to pin the bass and just sort of make it sit underneath everything. It doesn't need to be necessarily. This is a trick. This bass and guitar trick I'm going to talk about now, both stolen from Jordan Valeriot of Hardcore Music Studio. He was gracious enough to do an interview with us that I'm releasing sometime next week. and we talked about a lot of different techniques on mixing harder rock music. In his case, and what I stole from him was just pinning the bass underneath and making it function in a way that it's not like you can hear it in front of you or anything, but if you mute it, the bottom of the mix just falls out. And I think that I accomplished that with this mix. So let's listen to the bass, and then the bass is going to a parallel chain that has a fuzz and a saturation, and then it's just being it just has EQ in the mids. Everything else is being filtered out, and that just gives it that extra like fuzzy growl in the mids. All right, so let's listen to this, and then I'm going to mute the bass so you can hear how much of a how important that foundation is, and when you take it out, it completely takes the bottom out of the mix. Most over. And obviously, sounds very weird in solo, but it definitely serves a really great function in that mix. And then another thing that I did was I bought a plugin from Waves because they were on sale, and I'm starting to experiment with the CLA3A, which is kind of fun to use. I've used that on electric guitars and guitars and bass now, and with some great results. But then one of the revisions I got from Mike, the singer in 3 Parts Dead, was that he didn't like the effect on the verse vocals as much. It was just too much. So what I ended up doing, as you can hear here in the actual mix master here, I have this amp sim in I have this on his voice. So basically running the vocal through a guitar amplifier and cab. So with the guitar amp sim on the vocal track as an insert, it sounds like this. Through my haze, I feel your gaze, I feel your doubt. My cup runneth over. Desensitized, I'm blind. So Mike thought that was a little bit too much, so I decided to do it in parallel. So now there is just a chain here going to the verse vocal effects, and it's just being blended in underneath. So there's the effect is less subtle. Let's hear that. Through my haze, I feel your gaze, I feel your doubt. My cup runneth over. Desensitized, I'm blind, time's running out. It's almost over. Yeah. Very cool. And then one final thing to wrap things up. Like I say in my Mixing with 5 plugins course, there's a parallel processing masterclass that comes included with it. And I have this masterclass for a reason, because I think it's one of the more important processing techniques you can use to make full and powerful mixes. And just to give you an example of how much things can change by just using a couple of parallel buses, I have all of the instruments and the vocals sent to these 2 buses here. And then when I mute them, you'll hear how much smaller the mix is, how much less punchy and less powerful it is overall. All right, so that's it for this week's recap of our mix streams. Hope you enjoyed this. Hope you found it useful. Hope it gave you some ideas to try out in your next mixes. If you want more stuff like this, obviously subscribe to the YouTube channel. But if you want to take it even further, you go to mixfinisher.com, where you can download the mix translation cheat sheet that helps you create mixes that translate to all speaker systems, so it sounds the same everywhere you play it through. So hope you found that useful. Once again, I'm Björkvin from Audio Issues. Thanks for watching.